7:30. We can probably wrap up right before. And she said, well, I'm assuming we're canceling the meeting tonight because we won't have quorum if Greg won't be there. It's like, Greg will be here. But don't we just have to have more people than less? We have 7 members. Isn't quorum 4 people?
Yeah. And I don't know if you're planning on making any decisions tonight, but I mean, if it's just Nina presenting, I mean, I don't think that would be bad at all.
Yeah, but it's like, no. We went through all the hoops. Come on, let's do this.
I also don't know for future agendas, tell me I'm wrong here, but if it ended earlier than 7:30, I wouldn't complain.
Well, let's make that happen.
I mean, like, they're usually an hour and a half. That's a longer meeting. I don't know.
We're pretty engaged though, Jerry. We have a lot to cover and it's your favorite subject, but I hear you. We we can get through stuff. Heck
Kathy
yeah.
wrote, I'm host and it's recording and streaming. She's out. So.
Okay. Hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Hello, Kim. Hi, Jerry.
We'll give everyone a couple minutes. Hopefully nobody decided that it was canceled because it's not. It's 5:58. I'm excited that you're giving your presentation tonight for the Neighborhood Association. I think that's exactly the right place for expanding that reach into neighborhoods with the Map Your Neighborhood and the resilience. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I'm Mike. So you play drums?
I do.
Cool.
Yeah. Since the age of 12.
Uh-huh.
It's good fun.
If you were
My
on
youngest son started, but lasted for about 3 or 4 years. The thumb of the rhythms started getting really complex. He decided baseball was more fun. So.
Yeah, and like we talked last time, your son was played in Australia, and Doug told me about him too. Like he was good.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, Mike, Jerry told a kind of a punny joke earlier. Had you been on, you could have done the ba-dum bump. So if Jerry ramps up his humor tonight, you can just turn around and give it.
Take a step back over there.
Yep.
I don't know. I thought when Kathy's here, I usually have some really great material, but she's not. So.
Well, we almost have quorum. Debbie's here.
Well, that's 4, so that's it.
Oh, you're right.
Did you hear from Victoria?
And Victoria. Great. We should have Charity in a moment. Hi, Debbie.
Great.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello, Debbie. So, Mike, are you facing end of term projects?
Beginning of term now.
Beginning of term. Ah.
Yeah, the first day was Monday.
Uh-huh. So you've already been through the first end of term projects. So
Yeah. First term wasn't too bad. I think I lucked out and ended up only being able to take the one course that was available, and I think it's probably going to be the least strenuous of the courses. So I'm signed up for 2 for this term, and already finding that there's a lot more reading. So
yeah. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we do have quorum, so let's get going and then everybody can introduce themselves when they jump on. So it is 6:01 p.m. and I am calling this meeting to order. And if everyone would like to go around really quick and introduce themselves. And we've got Nina coming on. I'm Kim Bria, co-chair of the Sustainability Advisory Board.
I'm Debbie Wong.
I'm Greg Smith.
Hi, I'm Charity Hadnot.
Hi, Jerry Gabrielatis. Nina, are you there? She'll come in.
All right, so we have our board members here, and I think, did you say Victoria was on?
No, I was just wondering whether she was going to come, whether she'd gotten back to you.
I did not hear back.
Okay.
So let's go ahead then and approve the minutes from last meeting. Did everyone get a chance to read the draft minutes from our last meeting last month? I was hoping for more enthusiasm. Like that you really read it or kind of went over it. Um, are we good to approve the minutes from our April meeting? Would anybody like to make a
Yes,
motion?
I
to
would
approve the
say, I
minutes?
would say we could approve the minutes. I motion to approve them.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, everybody good with the minutes for last month?
Yes, thumbs up.
Great. Okay, so we have minutes approved from last month. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, and if they pop in later, are we good with moving that agenda item to the end if we do get public comment or someone piping in? And then normally we go around and do check-ins and updates for everyone. Since we have a guest tonight, is everyone okay doing that after the Northwest Natural presentation?
Yeah.
I'm sure Nina would love to hear about our check-ins, but she's if she's ready to go, we can get started. Unless you want us to take that moment.
Is anyone else having problems hearing Nina? Because I don't hear anything.
I'm texting her and she asked if we can see her. She says she can see
No.
us, but yeah.
Why don't we do check-ins while we get this worked out? So let's go ahead and go around the room. Anything anybody wants to share? Mike, you could give a recap of your success in school.
Gosh, just to keep it short, finished up my first class. I got an A. Finished up my final project while my wife and I were out in the Mount Hood area for a late season ski trip, but got it in on time and everything went well. I'm hoping the rains that we're still having persist for at least another several months, so that we don't have to worry about the dry season like we have been.
Hey, anyone else?
I was just gonna let you all know that I just finished the first meeting at Rosemont that I've ever had for a green team that was created. Just threw out an email for it, and literally I had 25 kids show up. It's pretty amazing. So they literally had lots of initiatives and things they wanted to accomplish at the school. It was amazing. I was just overwhelmed. So it's pretty awesome. I was very, very proud. So
Congratulations.
never at Rosemont. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm excited for that.
And Charity, I missed the content. What was the focus of the meeting?
So there's never been a green team or sustainability group or club,
Uh-huh.
Rosemont Ridge Middle School. And I founded and helped create the one at Trillium Creek, and they asked me if I would help do that at Rosemont. And
Uh-huh.
so I just threw an email out, or the vice principal did yesterday, literally just did it. And we literally, just overnight had 25 kids show up who had wonderful ideas about repurposing, recycling, wanting to be doing food audits, food waste initiatives. They even had groups that wanted to do the eco tip of the week in the newsletter. Like, it was just amazing. It was very, very cool to have all these kids who were that
Good.
passionate about it.
Good. Great.
So it gave me hope.
Excellent.
Exciting, Debbie.
Don't really have a whole lot to say. I did get a chance to try an electric bike this past weekend. They had some demos out at the farmers market in Tiger. Lots of fun. I've done a lot of cycling, but not on electric bikes. And I'll have to say, one of the limiting things for me is, so I used to, this is before I retired, I tried bicycling to work, which is in Tualatin, and riding Willamette Drive, then Borland, which has very little shoulder, doesn't have a bike lane. I mean, you're really, it's not a good idea. And then I also used to cycle to Lake Oswego as well as to Selwood. And again, same type of thing. You have minimal shoulder, you have a lot more traffic. And so, I look forward to when we have a little bit better infrastructure for that. As far as like the utility for an electric bike for myself, I do a lot of walking, and I walk to do like my grocery shopping and stuff like that. So, I'm not sure how much I would use it in West Linn, but it was a lot of fun, to have that power assist.
That's great. Was there more than one brand?
There was 2 brands. I did the Bolt, and then I tried the most basic model, which just has there's 5 levels of assist, and the maximum speed is about 20 miles per hour. It varies a little bit depending upon weight and say wind, whether you're bicycling against the wind. Recharge time is like maybe about 4 to 6 hours, he was saying, and you can go, and again, it's variable, the distance, anywhere from like 30 to 50. And again, that depends on the weight of the person, how much you use the power assist, the wind, all those various factors. But I can see, if someone lived or worked in a place where there's a good bike lanes too, I mean, it would be a great way to commute. And then if they had to run a lot of errands around town, again, it's a nice option.
Oh, that's great. If I'd love to circle back later too, because we had an e-bike when we had our booth at the fair a couple years ago, and it'd be great to if that was successful to have them come to our booth too.
I actually asked the salesperson, it's with the Bolt company, and he says that they normally do 2 events a month. And I mentioned it in July, when we had the fair, and he said that he's not sure what their schedule would be like, but I have his contact information. So if that's something that the board wants to pursue, I can contact him and see what his availability is for that month.
Yes, please. It's fantastic. When we did it last time, the mayor's wife went and demoed one, and she rides all the time. And then she ended up buying one because she was just giggling riding up and down the hills. So yeah, it'd be great to see if you're willing to do that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I can do that.
And I can see you're smiling when you're talking about riding it, so that's good. Greg?
I was just going to mention that a couple of weeks ago, I was in a group and we met with Natalie Rogers, who's the natural resources and climate change manager in Milwaukee. And I was really impressed with her kind of political savvy in terms of figuring out how to get things to happen in Milwaukee. And I mentioned to Kim that I had a chance to read Milwaukee's climate action plan, which is just remarkably thorough. And urge everybody else to take a look at it if you haven't had a chance to yet. But they had actually hired a consultant, and for $200,000 to help develop this whole plan with a lot of public input. So it's something I think that we might want to take into consideration as we make recommendations to the city council as well. I'm realizing that these kinds of plans are probably not likely to be as thoroughly developed by a volunteer citizen group, although there was a volunteer citizen group who worked with the consultants. But being able to tap into the expertise of these folks who are actually, I think, responsible for developing many of the climate action plans around the state might be something that we want to think seriously about. So it was great. I think if it would probably be valuable just to invite her to one of our meetings. So if we have a chance, that might be something good to do.
If she's Canadian, go ahead, Debbie.
Are they involved in helping with implementation of recommendations and then reevaluation?
Oh, that's what she's doing.
Okay.
That's her job. Yeah, is the implementation and the evaluation. She had actually some really thoughtful comments about evaluation to make it practicable. Because oftentimes, if you get too far into like specific measures, it becomes impossible for cities to actually track what's going on because of the expense of doing so and the time required to do so. So they were using more kind of narrative structures as a means for really tracking what was going on. So it would be actually, I think, for pretty fascinating to have a conversation with her about that kind of decision, as well as the way in which they are tracking things. I was really impressed by her grasp of the issues, and again, her ability to figure out how to work successfully with different constituencies.
Well, and the timing's incredible to have those things in place. I'm thankful for what we have. It'd be great to have something robust like Milwaukee does, particularly with the infrastructure financing that's coming with the environmental ties to it. So that's great news. Yeah, if she's game to come to our meeting, please.
I will ask her.
Yeah. And I attended, I mean, this is a little nerdy, but I attended a webinar on finance with ESG investments, which is environmental, social, and government investments. And that's really taking off in a big way compared to where it was. There's a lot of corporations that are, that are interested in prioritize those investments. And it's a pretty complex issue. And it's elements of data collection. It's perspective in what somebody considers a good investment. One of the things that really stood out to me was somebody that said where you can tell a successful company is in their employee engagement. So it's not just profit and loss statements, but they're like, you could have a company that claims to do great things and be profitable, but if they have a lot of employee turnover, or it's not a great place to work, that's part of the big picture. And then other aspects of that conversation had me looking at insurance and risk. I may have mentioned it at a previous meeting, but my homeowner's insurance went up significantly this last year, and it actually got canceled and reissued because of the fires. My neighbor, I don't know if all of Westland was a level 2, but my neighbor across the street is a different insurance company, and so risk is definitely part of these equations now. And they were talking on these investments. They said of climate incidents, where people have had floods and fires and disasters, only 50% were covered by insurance last year. And I don't know what that's based on. I don't know if that means they weren't insured or if insurance wasn't covering those incidents. So I think this will be a fun conversation for you, Greg, when you go to the neighborhood association tonight and talk about resiliency. But I think all of these things also have the financial aspect. So the work that we're doing also ties into a bigger picture across the nation of what's a risk, what's a good investment, and where people are putting their focus on. And also, I was having a conversation with somebody with LEAD, and that's a big element of financing too. So I'm interested in what the possibilities of getting the new Dollarwood school, the A through Q school, LEED certified, because it makes a lot of sense to let the taxpayers know that it was built to those standards and that it can operate at those standards. So that's my nerd minute. Do we have Nina back?
No. We're having tech issues. She's been trying to email me the presentation that she wants to give, and it's not coming through. So we want to keep going with other material, by all means, but I don't have it solved yet. So
Okay, I'll ask a question then that is not on the agenda, but Jerry had mentioned right before we started that a lot of the other advisory groups are meeting in person, and which would help with the presentation stuff too. How does the group feel about meeting in person again.
Just to be clear, people would still have an online option.
Right,
We would
right,
meet
right,
in
right.
Bolton.
I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, I think
I,
having both options, is it is convenient to be able to have it virtually, but being in person, of course, is always so much easier too.
I think both options are bigger because right now there is an uptick, and I have certain commitments with family members that are at higher risk for serious outcomes. So I just wouldn't want to take a risk of myself even having asymptomatic COVID and then passing it on to somebody. Plus, the other issue that I have, and I may have mentioned it to the group, is that I really struggle to hear sometimes. And sometimes in a group setting, it's hard because people aren't, especially if they're not facing me, it's hard for me to understand what they're saying. And in fact, today, Charity, I have to apologize. It's really difficult for me to understand what you're saying. And I don't know whether it has to do with I don't know, the microphone or whether it's something on my end. And part of it's my hearing, of course, but it's a challenge. And it's a little bit easier sometimes when I do it online.
Okay, well, so it sounds like the hybrid for a lot of reasons will work, and also from the aspect of capturing the meeting, will you please let us know, or if you can't hear, or because we want everything to work out for you at the meeting. And that's really frustrating when you can't pick up everything.
Yeah, and I hate to be interrupting people constantly saying, could you repeat yourself? And sometimes I just get words and I have to kind of fill in the blanks, and sometimes I got it right in terms of following the conversation, but sometimes it's wrong.
I'm good with the hybrid model too. Like Debbie, I have a family member that I'm caring for, and she is 96 and more at risk. So
Okay. Good. Well, we'll stick with what we have. We will go to, I know Jerry's having fun working out the technical aspects here. Number 6, the recommending the tree code be put on the planning docket. This was added to the agenda because if you recall earlier in the year, Terry and I did the SAB presentation to council of the areas to focus on with staff because they asked us to review the entire community development codes to make recommendations of what should be changed. So of those areas of focus, the only thing that was in the CDC was a tree code update. So to meet the council's goal for us, we've met it by reviewing what we recommend to work on. And by putting it on the docket, it doesn't mean it'll get worked on, but at least it's on the list on there. I don't know if you want to call it Jerry's at like the docket, the master plan of projects.
The
for
docket
planning.
is what we call it.
Okay, so it's a docket. I would love to see us get on the list because we came this far to get through all those elements. But if we don't get on the list, it won't happen.
Tim, I was wondering, I am unfamiliar with the Westland Tree Code, and I'm unfamiliar with what the board's previous recommendations were concerning the changes of the for the tree code. Is there where do I get that information? I think I looked online to under the CDC, and I think I did see the tree code. I didn't see anything. But what are the board's recommendations for changes for the tree code?
That's a great question. I'm in a whole boatload of documents here. And it is a little challenging to navigate the city website sometimes for documents of things that we want.
Yeah, because I was trying to look at the CDC, and it's really hard because you can't like look for the table of contents and go to a certain page, or maybe I'm doing something wrong.
You're not doing anything
Uh-huh.
wrong. Find things, and it's really frustrating when you want to send somebody a link and you're like, okay, where is it hiding? And sometimes I have better luck doing a Google search, a general Google search for something at the city than on the website. That's my hot tip for the day. Let me see if I can find this with the tree.
The information was presented in the October meeting.
Okay.
October of last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can access the video then.
The video
Um,
would be in there. There's also a draft of the document that was sent to the council.
Oh, that with the changes that were recommended.
Yeah, it looks
Okay.
like the majority of it is essentially to inventory tree and plant growth on parcels that would be developed, and then to recommend that a minimum of 20% of the property be not cleared, left as it is. I think the actual implementation is probably going to look a little bit more detailed, but there's nothing that I know of in the code that yet addresses something like that.
So is there like this overarching inventory of the tree canopy for West Linn, and then this tree code is trying to achieve a certain goal, like we have a goal of, for example, I don't know, 30% tree canopy for all of West Linn. And so we,
Here's
because I
The
know that,
recommend-
go ahead.
The recommendation in the code was looking at say, examples where a piece of undeveloped land is purchased by a developer, and the hope was that the code would, after these revisions, say something along the lines of, well, you can't just cut down every tree on that property. You have to leave, say, 20% or whatever the number ends up being in the final code revision. But I think it's more to do with like individual land parcels than it is a more of a holistic look at like a tree canopy goal for the city as a whole.
so how did they come up with that 20%? I'm trying to tie it to the number to a goal of specific climate mitigation stuff. And so, because for example, like say a property had 10 trees, and if you're saying, well, we only have to maintain 20%, so it gets to cut down everything but 2 trees. And how does that help us achieve our climate goals with a urban forest mitigating climate change?
Let
Am I
me,
making sense?
yes, yes. Let me back up. I found the document, and maybe this is what Mike's looking at. So we had submitted it. I found the PDF of what we submitted to council October 2021. And so of the 3 items, it was the 3 items we presented to review in the CDC. One was community electrification, and that covered, you know, like multifamily and commercial buildings, city buildings to have electric capacity for charging and for solar, at least, you know, on new buildings. 2 was resilient landscaping, and 3 was tree preservation. So of those 3 big topics, tree preservation was the only thing that was in the CDC. And this is really good timing because the state House Bill 2001 takes away that single family housing, and development is going to change to increase affordable housing. So before we have to go cut down every tree, it's like, how does our code look? So on the paragraph on tree preservation, the summary is parcels of land zoned for development should be inventoried for tree and plant growth. So I don't know how comprehensive our inventory is right now. That would be a whole project. Clear cutting of lots should be eliminated. A percentage of the property should be set aside to preserve existing trees on public and private developments. For example, other cities require that a minimum of 20% of the property and trees be preserved. This may require that some of the proposed lots be smaller, but it is a crucial piece of preserving carbon sequestering trees, reducing rainwater runoff, and preserving valuable wildlife habitat. So that was based on a tree code of a similar sized city. I think it was Tigard, that that took a few years to get to that point. So it's not a magic number. That was just one example. And by us putting on the docket, we don't need to get into the details of how it looks. It's acknowledging that what we have is outmoded and needs to be updated. And this would be a great time to do it. Like like there's a property down the corner from me that I used to hear owls. It's like 2 properties away, and I don't hear them anymore because it was just full of all these really mature trees, and a bunch were cut down. And then I walked by today, and almost all of them were cut down. So, and I think the way our code's written is they may set aside trees when they go to develop the property, but if something happens, I think they can just come along and eliminate a tree, and there's no provision for needing to put it back.
So, in the big picture, we don't really have like a goal in terms of tree canopy for the whole city of West Linn. We're just kind of focused. So this goal is really focusing on areas of development. And is there science behind that 20%? Because I guess I'm trying to figure out what the environmental goal that we hope to achieve with this number that we've come up with.
Probably, and if Darren was here, he could help answer that because he worked on the tree code. I wish I could speak to that. I'm sure there is, but it's not my lane as an expert. So it's a great question. So asking this to be put on the docket means it's on the list to get reviewed and to dive into. And we can help make those recommendations with whoever on staff or a consultant is working on that. And that could take a couple years. Or not. Or yes.
Yeah, I think it is very time consuming to collect that data, but it kind of helps us provide guidance.
If we don't do it, if we don't do anything, then it won't change. So the way it is
Right, and so you're right.
is the way it is today. And if we don't do anything about it, then that may not change.
Yeah, we don't exactly have a whole lot of time either.
Yeah, so that's I would love to see after everything that we've looked at that can be impacted in this code. I think it's an exceptional time because of making those changes with development. And this really feels like it belongs hand in hand. How does our tree code work with the changes in housing?
Is there any focus on areas outside of development areas? I mean, does Weston have certain like hot spots, because of a lack of trees to mitigate the temperature? Because I know like in a lot of cities, for example, Portland, they track hot spots, and that's why they do the canopy thing. So they're looking at the whole city percentage of tree canopy, its role in temperature mitigation. And I don't know exactly how you calculate this because there's consultants that do all of that because it's all measurable, and it translates out to what type of mitigation can happen in terms of like stormwater management and hotspots.
This is actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that this is like one of the things that Natalie Rogers in Milwaukee really focuses in on, because the natural resources part of her job is largely tied into the tree canopy and hitting a particular percentage, and the kind of thing exactly that you're talking about, Debbie. So it seems like as we kind of work this through, we might really find it useful to chat with her, just given her experience and knowledge of what it involves. And one of the things that she talked about was just the importance of trees in kind of maintaining a lower temperature in neighborhoods on particularly hot days, and the significance of that moving into the future. So I think the questions you're raising are really very apt.
So,
But we're also talking about, tree replacement, like with this ice storm. And so this all kind of fits into that big picture and what our goals are in trying to mitigate climate change.
so Jerry, what's the process then in getting this on the docket? What does that look like, or how long does it take? What's the next step? Did he just freeze?
Yeah, he froze.
Yeah.
Coming back, I'm sure. This kind of goes hand in hand with all the developments that are going on as well in Westland that we are fighting. Well, some of us are fighting, like the Oppenlander situation.
Well, I'm curious. This definitely needs more conversation. Okay. My thought was also is if it's on the docket, like we can talk about it, what we'd like to see. But if it's not on the docket, we're having a spirited conversation that won't yield any results. Right?
Yeah, it needs to be on the docket for sure.
Sorry to digress.
No. These are really important questions, Debbie, and I really look forward to digging into a meaty project with you because you've asked great questions and you get right in there. So,
So I'm sorry, like I was asked a question, there was a large gap in this meeting. I don't know if that happened
What
for
is it-
everybody.
what
Can you
does
all
it
hear
look
and
like?
see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, good. Kim, I think you asked how does something get on the docket? I think the SAB can make a recommendation to council that it goes on the docket, and that should be fine. I'll double check with Darren on that, and then I think it's just a matter of council working with planning commission or whomever it might be to identify how high a priority it should be, and then we'd have to come up with funding for those things.
Okay. So then do we need to make a motion to do that?
Let's run with that. I'm going to add that I've been trying to call, text, get in touch with Nina and Nina, and she's sort of here, but she will not be able to connect tonight. So we will go with another night, and I'll make arrangements for that. But she can't get through.
Tell her many, many, many thanks for the heroic efforts to make it happen. Oh, no. Okay.
There goes Jerry.
Jerry comes back. This might be a really super quick meeting tonight. But to me, like at least if the tree code gets to update, it gets put on the planning docket, then we can get staff time and we can get Darren back here and Greg, if we could get the woman from Milwaukee, we could have a much more meaningful conversation of what that looks like. But I think getting it on the docket, because it's like, how do you prioritize stuff? There's a lot of things on there, but having a conversation after it's on the docket might help move it up. We lost 30% of our tree canopy approximately in that ice storm, and we got hit a lot harder than other cities did. And nobody has a budget. I mean, the city doesn't have like a savings account to go lose 30% of your tree canopy. When does it ever happen?
So Kim, does this require a motion from us to put it
Yeah,
on the
but-
docket?
Yeah, but I just want to I guess Jerry can watch this later. We don't need him for the motion. Like, hey, Jerry, while you were out, we made a motion.
Motion that we're gonna put it on the docket.
But we're recorded. So would someone like to make a motion to put the tree preservation code on the docket? Or sorry, tree code. Yeah, recommended tree code update be put on the docket.
Can we just get a little bit more clarification on what specifically we're asking to be put on the docket? Are
Tree
we
code
asking that the tree code be revisited and examined
Updated.
for a specific goal?
It definitely needs to be updated, and I wouldn't even know what to more specific to put in there.
I just wonder if the motion makes its way to council and they see this, and if there's not enough, some specificity may help them with respect to what we would like them to discuss or move forward with.
In
I'm
our,
hearing Debbie mention that, maybe we should have a goal for, some specific goal for tree canopy restoration or something along those lines.
we put in the proposal to council, it was just a subcategory of tree preservation. So if we were asking a tree preservation code to be updated in the community development code, it's broad. But but then we at least need staff time to walk through it to get a little more specific in what that would look like.
So Kim, if it gets put on the docket, are you saying then that's when we would be more specific? We'd have the opportunity to make more specific recommendations. Is that what can happen if it's put
Yeah,
on the
so
docket?
putting on the docket's the 50,000 foot level, the overview. Hey, this needs to get reviewed. And then once it's on the docket, it may be at the bottom of the list. They may say we're not touching this for a while, but at least then we can, have someone from staff come back to the meeting and tell us this is what this looks like to help us walk through goals. And we could have a subsequent proposal to council saying, okay, this is on the docket. Here's what we'd like to see. And use that opportunity to get it prioritized.
So, and excuse my ignorance. So maybe if you can explain a little bit more of the process with me. Okay, so it gets put on the docket, and so the members of the planning commission are the ones that actually review it and do the changes with our input regarding specific recommendations. Is that how it works?
Let's back it up to this is an incredibly big ask. So when council asked the Sustainability Advisory Board last year for their goals to review the CDC, that was a Herculean ask because we're not working professionals in community development codes. And then when we did a proposal to request staff time, which was Darren, we got Darren to say, okay, what are the broad areas that you want to look at? So we identified 3: community electrification, resilient landscaping, and tree preservation. And we got a little more detail in there. And then of those 3 broad categories, the only one that's in the CDC to update is the tree preservation. So in response to council giving us a goal, please look at the whole thing. This is saying we looked at the whole thing and this is the one area that we recommend gets updated. So that starts the conversation and it kind of starts the clock once you're on the docket. We could meet for the rest of the year and come up with some really great plans and targets and goals to present to them. But I feel we need professional staff or someone of professional expertise to help guide us through work. What's effective? Where can we get something done? If something's too restrictive or specific and it's never going to happen, then we've spent a lot of time in meetings with great ideas that aren't going to get any traction. So I don't know if that answered your question or made it more confusing, but the goal.
I think that there's probably there's short-term goals, and then there's the long-term goals. And I think when I think about like the tree canopy, that overarching goal, I think it is really important because it extends beyond just areas of development, but it's looking at the whole picture, how that even the areas of development, how that is going to fit into the big picture of our urban forest and the role of the urban forest in terms of mitigating climate change, from temperature to carbon sequestration to stormwater management to habitat, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know what is the best platform to discuss that. Is it regarding the CDC codes, or is it how do you achieve that?
That's where the rubber hits the road, is updating the code, because even if we have recommendations, there's no, I mean, that CDC is, it's the backbone of the city. You know, it's what things are designed to. It's, you know, I mean, it really affects building. There's a lot of elements to this, but if we want something that that really addresses tree preservation, which is what we're talking about, you know, if you're developing property, this is the place to do it. And there may be some master planning with the city that there's a goal to have a certain percentage of trees. But it's what backs that up to make it happen is the question.
See, I think I look at it as a step to accomplish a bigger goal, but yet because we don't have this bigger goal yet, it's hard for me. Like, for example, I don't even know how they come up with the number 20%. Why not 30, 40, 50%?
It can be anything you want. I mean, but this is what Darren said worked. And when he was at Tiger, and they came up with 20% minimum. I mean, it's based on, it's not just invented, it was based on criteria that's been done in other cities. But again, we don't have anyone from staff here to talk about it tonight.
Yeah,
to
okay.
Guide us through the conversation.
Yeah, and I think again, back to what Greg said, it'd be really helpful to, because I forgot the name of the woman, Greg, but she has a lot of information regarding this area, and that can.
And if you know, and for the group, we did SAB, I don't know if it was 2015 or 16, they made a recommendation to council to hire a full-time staff person in sustainability. This is what they would do every day. This is what the person in the city of Milwaukee is doing. We have some really, I think our climate action goals might be better than Clackamas County's. They're not Milwaukee's. But you got to have somebody to execute that and to focus on it every day, not volunteers that are here for one meeting a month
Right.
to bring
We
things
need
up.
someone to, yeah.
Yeah, and that just, you know, anytime there was you know, every time the budget committee came, it was like, that's the first thing to get cut. So this is something we've been advocating for, and there's plenty of work for it. And if you look at today, if you look at some of the funding possibilities, that person could pay for themselves. You know, with some of the grant programs and energy savings and that kind of thing of having having a sustainability person on board, which I'm sure Greg could totally speak to. So barring that we don't have a full-time person on staff or a part-time person, which was the goal in the last couple of years, this is the next thing that we can address. And we can make recommendations to council next year. Would you please urgently consider hiring a sustainability person that focuses on these to move the needle?
But I think that it's a good idea to add it to the docket to be discussed because of that. And also with the caveat that it needs to be reviewed by someone that is their job. That they need to review, needs to be reviewed by someone who they could either contract it out or something. It needs to be reviewed by someone who that's what they do, right? Because I feel like our city has lost a lot to contractors. We're obviously fighting one right now. And so we're losing it because once they buy that property, it's theirs. They can pretty much do what they want. So
they do what's within the codes. So, you know, I mean, it may be what they want. And, you know, like we all want to keep every single tree on the property. And a contractor, I get why you want to cut the trees down. It's a lot easier to move your equipment around and get things in. But in any city, a contractor or a developer is working with what the codes are.
yeah, I feel like ours are pretty loose. So what I've seen happen. So that would be good. I think it could, because it could push it to what the next level is, to Debbie's point, to be, there does need to be someone who is committed just to this, to sustainability, to keep the city intact for what we're trying to accomplish. My 2 cents. So I move that we do put it on the docket. I'm gonna just do it.
We can do that. So, I mean, I was thinking to keep it just super simple of recommending the tree code be put on the planning docket or recommending the tree preservation code update be put on the docket. I think the shorter the better. So that if it's on there, then that will make sure that we have somebody to guide us through what does that affect? Because the whole thing with the CDC too is it's not linear. There may be one code that you change and it impacts things that are indirectly in 2 or 3 different places. But I mean, it can be whatever you want. Mike, I think you had mentioned something about this, but would you guys like to, what would you like to call it to send to council? That's short and simple and
I would recommend that we ask them to review all the city codes. There may be things outside of the CDC with an eye towards tree canopy preservation, particularly in light of the February 2021 canopy loss. Review and update those codes with preservation of the canopy as a goal.
okay. And I want to clarify if I'm hearing 1 or 2 different things, because council asked SAB to review the CDC codes and report back to them recommendations of things to change or update. So this is the recommendation specific for the CDC, which would be tree preservation. Are you asking for a second thing, which is outside of the CDC, or could be outside of the CDC?
I can't say that I know enough about all of the city codes, be they the development code or the municipal code. There may be things in either group of code that pertain to this. I think that by being broad in our recommendation, we allow that to be captured wherever it's relevant.
Okay. So is everybody good with recommending the tree preservation code be put on the docket?
Thumbs up.
Because that feels like it's a big enough canopy, pun intended, to capture the bigger goals that we're talking about here.
Yes.
Because we,
Well, what about, but it doesn't include restoration, which is really important given what's happened.
and I don't know that restoration is in the codes, because so here's an example. The things when we were talking about like community electrification and the resilient landscaping, they're things that are part of our climate action plan, but some of those are incentives, some of those are related to building permits. They're in different areas of influence. So that's that coming back to the tree thing is like, this is in response to council's goal for us. I suspect we will have a really fabulous list to give to council by the end of the year for our recommendations of what our goals should be for next year.
So,
Did I just confuse you?
So, we're basically tasked very specifically with making recommendations for changes in existing code, but we are not to make recommendations for new codes that don't exist.
I don't believe that's the case. I think that they asked us to review the CDC as a large collection of code and to issue recommendations on changes, be they additions or alterations.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
And I think that there's this separate issue of, replenishing the canopy, which is outside of the code. This is more of a, in terms of at least properties that are controlled by the city, easements and so forth. Like that's more of a funding allocation.
Right. And they did.
The ask was for us to review the code, but we can, I suppose, make recommendations outside of that to be placed on the docket for consideration, which I think is kind of what we're going through here.
Okay.
And they did just send out that, I don't know if you saw the, I'm sure you did, the infrastructure funding survey. they just sent out for Westland for capital funding. And one of the second line item to that, you did not see it in your email, was the replacement of the removed trees that happened during the freeze. And do you want to have money allocated to that? Which of course I said yes, we want money allocated to that. But that was definitely just sent out to all Westland residents.
Right, right.
Yeah, and that's a challenging, that survey is challenging because all the things they're asking for is prioritizing it. Like they said, hey, if we don't do anything different with the water, now you're kind of like in the ER for repairs.
Right.
So there's a lot of competing major things in that survey.
Right.
But it, from that survey, it didn't seem like it gave any other funding options than to increase the taxpayers' tax burden. I mean, other options like exploring a partnership with Friends of Trees or community groups. How would they be willing to volunteer time to, do some of the labor involved in replacing trees? I don't think we've explored some of these other options in addition to just increasing someone's taxes. Because I tell you, it is really hard right now. Because when I speak to other people about various issues in the city and sustainability stuff, when you start talking about increasing someone's costs, for some families, that's just not doable.
That's a great idea, Debbie. I mean, there's a lot of organizations who do help. They did that at Trillium. They came and helped Friends of Trees, planted all those trees for the school.
Yeah, yeah. So I know like Portland, yeah.
Or maybe people just have to register with Friends of Trees and they get a tree, even though or the ones they cut down, but maybe there's something we could explore for the city to see if people were interested in that to help. Because I agree, there's a lot of things that were on that survey. They're probably going to take precedence. That probably the trees are not going to get first priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, and this is, this will get Greg totally ready for his resiliency presentation because this is exactly what we're talking about. Hey, guess what? You just lost 30% of your tree canopy. What magic checkbook are you pulling it out of to fix it? And then what's next? And please don't ask what's next. So, so coming back to recommending the tree code, would somebody like to make a motion to recommend, or I guess I could do that. I make a motion to recommend the tree code update be put on the planning docket. Does anyone second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. So I'll draft something up, very brief, send it to the group, and if I'll get staff input on it just to make sure that my language is clear of what we're asking for, because I haven't asked to put something on a CDC docket before. And then we've got a significant council goal accomplished for the year, which is huge, because that was a little daunting of, oh boy, how are we gonna go through the community development code and see what needs to change?
How many pages is that?
What's that?
How many pages is it of all the CDC codes that we were supposed to review?
A lot, and it's not a, yeah. It's pretty technical reading, so yeah, so great. So that's a great accomplishment. I don't know if Jerry will make it back or not. And then coming back to the tree replanting, there could be some really great opportunities here. So does anyone have any contacts with Friends of Trees or organizations that can help with us? Because it's
Well, I know I'm just from the school district, Bob is he's the one at Crest. Helena and Bob at Crest, they know Friends of Trees. They've worked with them quite a bit.
Are you, would you be okay reaching out to them to see if they're aware of any programs that might be able to help the city or for residents?
Yeah, I'll reach out to both of them through Crest.
Yeah, and let them know that Westland was hit harder than anyone else. I mean, everybody was impacted.
He knows. He's
Okay, good.
yeah.
I mean, a
He's
lot of,
with us. He's with us.
it was such a weird weather thing. I mean, a lot of people were impacted, but we were like hardcore impacted of how many trees we lost.
Yeah.
Is anyone else aware of any organizations or have any connections with that where we can help make that connection for the city or for residents?
You know, I had actually when that ice storm had hit and after we lost all those trees, I did actually reach out to Friends of Trees um, to see how we can get involved in that program. And they kind of said, and I'm not sure why exactly, but they said the city has to reach out to them because I don't know, there's a financial arrangement that needs to happen or whatever. Um, you know, I could try and reach out to them again, but I think it might require the city staff
Well,
to.
it would clarify. It would help clarify, is this something the city has to ask for? Or is it something residents have to ask for? And then maybe it's a both.
Well, it is both in terms of it's going to be the citizen that requests a tree from Friends of Tree, but that the program I think has to be initiated from a contact from the city because that was clear when I spoke with the woman about that, and I can't remember the name of the woman that I spoke to, but you know, if you want, I can look into it again and.
Jerry's gonna love this. We're like, hey, while you were off screen.
Jerry emailed, by the way, he says he's having connection issues. He can't get back on. So,
Okay.
and I texted Helena. I'll see what she says. I'm sure she's got some great answers. So,
Look what we're accomplishing tonight. Greg's gonna walk in without breaking a sweat to his presentation. Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a big topic. But I think this is a great thing that we can do right now. If we can help, I don't know what the city's doing, but if we can help facilitate that happening, that would be a game changer. Because I imagine it's just a tough topic, and it was an emotional topic, and I was not the only one crying when trees fell down around me last year. So we've got our staff liaison update. That's Jerry. Action item review. I think we just kind of did that. Debbie and Charity are both making contacts with Friends of Trees. What else do we have on the action items? What am I missing?
Oh, I was going to check with an electric bike company to see if they would participate in the fair.
Great, thank you.
I still need to find a speaker for, I believe, the October education series.
Fantastic. And then for the fair, is everybody good? And Charity, I don't know what you got going on with the fair booth. We were, I think.
well, I'm out of town that weekend, so it was really to try to share a booth with the Arts and Culture Commission.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
None of them can do it either because they're all doing other booths for different things. I said, forget it, because I'm going to be gone anyway. So
Okay.
we're not going to do anything we're going to be at the farmer's market probably 4 or 5 times with our own booth.
Okay.
That's perfect. We're just we're just promoting the art exhibit we're doing in August. So it's totally fine.
So, is there anybody here aside from myself that can help out at our booth? We're just gonna do it for one day on Saturday at the fair.
I'll be available.
Mike, you're good?
I can help out.
Greg, Debbie, you don't want to miss this party.
If I'm in town, yeah, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
You tell your family we're not taking a vacation today. The fair's happening.
It's actually really fun to be there and doing a booth.
It's great. Okay, and if you have any friends that are interested, the more the merrier.
I can always recommend it to the new green team. for students if they wanted to come and sit and learn.
Yes, or if they want to like facilitate something, they might have some cool gamer thing that they're just telling everybody about.
These
That would
kids
be
are on fire tonight. I'm telling you, I was blown away. Just blown away.
okay. Let's talk more about the green team. So if you can check in with their interest,
Okay.
I mean, it's whatever we want to put together. It's educational, but I think it's getting that interaction going. And
I already have an idea for it, so I'll throw it out to them and to see if students are available for it. At 25, so there's got to be some that are going to be around that weekend. So
okay,
just like doing a, one of the ideas I was giving them, like, did you know? And a lot of people don't know that you can't recycle clamshells. I know we're trying to change that in our state, but a lot of them, even at the meeting, didn't even know. And I showed them one. They're like, you can't recycle that. I'm like, no, it's not recyclable. So doing like a did you know thing where they could educate people coming by as students might be really kind of fun for them to do, or even like a recyclable not, I don't know.
I would
Think about it.
totally stop at a booth with a bunch of kids in it. Heck yeah.
Yeah, just think about it. See if you like it.
Okay. Yeah, kids and e-bikes, we would have the most popular booth there.
These kids are so fun. Yeah, they were so fun tonight. Loved it. So,
That's great.
all right, I'll bring it up there. Our next meeting is next Tuesday at the school, so I'll bring it up to them. I'm sure that some will get really excited about it. So
Fantastic. Okay. Well, great work, and I really hope council will agree to put the tree code on the docket so we can officially get that rolling, and it's timely. So,
yeah, that's great.
all right. Anything else anyone else would like to share or to put on the agenda for next month?
Could we have the person that Greg mentioned to come speak to us? And then also, is it possible to maybe have Darren come to our meeting again? Because I'd like to ask him a little bit more questions about the tree code stuff.
I will put that down. They all kind of get squeezed on their meetings, so it might make more sense to have him come once it's on the docket.
Okay.
Because I don't know how their staff time works when they have night meetings, but it'd be great to have him here because he really understands that since he helped go through it somewhere else.
Yeah, or who would be the one to answer questions if it's going to be outside our specific tree code? Because we were talking about the canopy and restoration, and we're saying that that's kind of outside this preservation code. Would he be able to address questions regarding that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's how he helped us get through, the other elements, that we had proposed. It's like, this is in, this is out, this is where the other one is, this is what's in the CDC. So he'd be perfect for that.
So would you like me to see whether or not Natalie would be available to come to our next meeting?
Yeah.
So I'll reach out to her. I also wondered, and Debbie, I mentioned it to Kim and Terry. It seems like it would be valuable to actually meet with somebody who is knowledgeable about what Lake Oswego is doing with regard to food, composting food waste. And do you know a person in Lake Oswego who would be able to contact someone in the refuse disposal company who would be able to give us more information about what that system actually looks like and what the costs are?
Well, I guess, would it be Amanda Smith? Because she's their sustainability manager. She's the one that gave me all that information about Lake Oswego's program.
So maybe, yeah, inviting Amanda in.
To
maybe,
speak with us?
Yeah, just to speak with us about that program. So we have some more grounded information that's actually based upon someone's experience of implementing it.
Okay. Do you know, because I know that with our last meeting, Jerry had ended it by saying that he was going to be talking with the Westland Refuse folks.
Right.
And I kind of like to know what the outcome of that is. I mean, is it something that Westland thinks is going to be doable? Do they need more information, and specifically what information they would like to have? So that maybe I can relay that to Amanda so that, you know, she can be sure that she's able to answer all the questions that all the various folks might have.
So it might make sense to wait until Jerry has had a conversation with the Westland Refuse folks. But it sounded to me as though they couldn't even or consider picking up just food waste. It was going to be kind of mixed in with yard debris. And I think the questions that you raised about whether or not that could then result in methane that could be burned rather than just released into the atmosphere made a lot of sense.
Well, you know, Alex Mellon is who I spoke to regarding that, and because he goes currently, like some of the commercial places that are sending their stuff to composting for composting. Yeah. It is converted to renewable energy, which is in the form of methane. But if you mix it, then I don't think you can do that.
No, exactly. That was what my concern was about kind of mixing the yard debris and the compost. I mean, the food waste, you're not going to be able to kind of have that advantage. So, so that's what I was like, I'm not sure that the Westland Refuse will be able to actually answer our questions, even if they were to give us information about the rate changes, which it seemed like was the only thing that Jerry was going to be asking about.
Yeah. You know, I also, another person that might be really good with answering these questions is Alex, because, you know, he educated me a lot about the whole process and all, you know, as well as Amanda. I mean, I think that they would be able to answer different, you know, specific questions about how the program was implemented, etc. Amanda can probably answer those. Yeah. But if you want to know a little bit more about the process of composting and the different ways of composting and the different end products, from renewable energy to the organic soil amendment, Alex probably would be a good person to answer those questions, I think.
I think probably for our purposes, Amanda might be the best bet, just in terms of helping us get an idea about what implementing a program like this would entail. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we should probably touch base with or have Jerry give us feedback as to his conversation with Westland Refuse and whether he thinks it's going to be doable. And the other thing is, you know, as I've talked to more folks in the community, and you know, there's a lot of people that can compost stuff
themselves,
but yet they're still going to have to pay that extra fee because the Westland Refuse person said that you can't opt out. It's going to be everybody has to opt in, and everyone's going to get charged, whether you're going to use that service or not. So there's some people that are going to, you know, be not happy with that. And also, I have a friend that lives out in the rural areas, and I guess their garbage service is different. They don't even pick up their yard debris. So I don't know if they, you know, how that works for them, and they're going to be upset again if they have to pay for something that the service that they're not going to get.
Yeah.
So there's just, and I'm sure, you know, before they actually make this decision, they're going to get input from the whole community, and folks will have a ability to weigh in, because there are some pretty strong feelings. I mean, I had I heard some not supportive responses for composting.
The cost, Debbie, what was the additional charge?
It was gonna be like $250 or something like that, wasn't it? Around there, a month.
A year.
Yeah. Well, so you multiply that by 12, of course.
A month.
Yeah.
But it can also, you know, I mean, we need more information to move anything forward, you know, right? Before we can ask the community, say, do you support paying this? It's like, well, what are we getting for it? And what does it look like? I think several people here, I have once a month. How many people have once a month garbage pickup?
I do.
Yeah, it's kind of great. And you've got weekly if you need, I mean, I don't need it for recycling, but boy, do I use it for the yard debris. So I've got the weekly yard debris and the recycling and then once a month garbage. So that may be an offset if people are having weekly pickup of, okay, it's $2 a month more, but you can you get your waste down to having one once a month pickup?
I would totally pay, it was $2 a month, I'm going to pay it, because we get weekly pickup. So, absolutely. I think a lot of people, they only see if it's $2 more a month. That's less than a coffee.
Yeah.
It is, but it does impact everybody. So, but before we go asking that big question, we need more information of what does it
Right.
look like? How did the other cities get it adopted? And then does it make enough of a difference? I mean, like, I don't know how hard it would be to have once a month pickup charity. It might be a little exciting if you have one.
Yeah, exactly. It might be a lot for me. But yeah, I really do. We do once a week, but that's good education though, because I don't know how many. I know in my neighborhood, everyone does it once a week, right? If some families probably don't even are aware they could do it twice a month, right?
They don't promote that. So
Exactly. See, so I think the education piece of it, Mike, I've been like, what? Because I also do Ridwell to help with the clamshells and the clean plastic. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I'm doing. I'm already paying more just to do that because I want it to be recycled properly, right? So
okay. So next steps for that are Greg, were you reaching out to Jerry with this kind of the 1-2 part to ask about Amanda and what his feedback is on is that you?
Well, I was going to ask, I could touch base with Amanda, but I was wondering if maybe it might be better to wait to hear back from Jerry as to the outcome of this conversation with
Right.
Westland Refuse. I mean, what do you guys think? Should we wait? I mean, it seems like we should.
That's my sense too, after you brought it up, Debbie. So waiting until we hear from Jerry does make sense.
Well, if either
Okay.
one of you want to send an email to Jerry, and copy the group saying, hey, what's the feedback? Because before we invite somebody from another city, I'm sure he'd want to,
Right. Right.
he'd want to
And,
extend that.
and I'll do that because I'll ask him if there's any additional
Okay.
questions he might have, because that way, just so that give that Amanda the heads up so that she can be sure she answers all the questions that we might have.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Look what we did.
Is there a certain when I talk to Amanda, is there a certain meeting that you want me to? I mean, what date, what month do you want to ask her?
I would recommend copying Jerry on that since he's our staff liaison, so he's not caught off guard that we have some, like a guest from another city.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to keep him in the loop of the conversation before we pick any dates. I love being with people that get stuff done.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, he's the decision maker, so
Well, just to follow that protocol that they're, extending the invitation to the guests and like, hey, this person's available. What do you think? What's the results of our last conversation?
Okay, so I'll send an email to Jerry and then CC the whole group, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay. Right. We've covered our stuff and then some. Is there anything else anyone would like to add for the good of the order?
we're good. I just finished the over story. It's about trees, sort of around that way. It's very hard to read, just FYI.
Oh,
It's very, very difficult to read. It's this big.
okay.
I don't recommend it. It's just about trees. So,
Okay, well, you're ready for us getting this on the planning docket, right?
yeah, exactly.
Good. All right. Well, we've covered plenty here. Jerry will be getting some emails, and thank you all so much.